Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon. With me, as always, is Caleb. And we are continuing on with Back to the Future month. We're going to be talking about Back to the Future Part 2. But until then, um, Caleb, been watching anything good?
Not really. I'll tell you what I didn't watch. I did not watch the Super Bowl. So,
Oh,
oh my gosh, like crazy.
I watched it. It was boring, but I made $400 on a square, so that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was glad the team that lost, but I didn't really
Right.
care about who won too much. So, nope, nothing really too much new on my side. Been a busy week for me, so nothing. Sorry, nothing to share. Maybe you can make up for it.
I've only got a couple things. Um, Running out of things to watch on TV, so we've been watching a couple random episodes of that '70s show.
Okay.
Just, I don't know, something we've watched quite a few times, and it's just good to have on in the background. I've been watching some random episodes of Dark Side of the Ring too. Just a good series. For whatever reason, I can't find season 4 anywhere, so I have like season one, two, three, and 5. It's weird.
Huh.
But yeah. Then I also watched this movie from the 90s, kind of a cult movie called Gummo.
Okay.
It's made by the same guy that made the. So if anybody's seen Kids, you know what to expect from this. It has no real plot. It just kind of meanders around and it's kind of weird.
Hmm.
I've just seen people talking about it and apparently it's a sought after VHS. I don't know. But yeah, it kind of was what it was. It was a weird movie. But I did also have time to watch Back to the Future Part 2. So let's talk about it. Back to the Future Part 2. It is from 1989 and is directed by Robert Zemeckis. And the plot for this one is after visiting 2015, Marty McFly must repeat his visit to 1955 to present disastrous changes to 1985 without interfering with his first trip.
And then 1855 and 1755 and 1885. Let's just do it all in one shot.
In 1985. But yeah, that was very wordy. And yeah. Um, so the cast for this one,
A lot of the same people.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, we got Michael J. Fox back as Marty McFly. We got Christopher Lloyd back as Doc. We got Leah Thompson back as Lorraine. Tom Wilson is back as Biff. This time around, we got Elizabeth Shue as Jennifer. James Tolkien is back as Strickland again. This time we have Jeffrey Weissman as George McFly.
For like 2 minutes.
Yeah, for a cup of coffee. And Billy Zane comes back again in a very small role as Match.
Billy Zane.
Yeah. Yeah, we also have a very, very young Elijah Wood
Really?
in the Cafe 80s scene.
Oh
He's
yeah.
one of the little boys playing video games.
Yes, I did forget about that. So, first impressions, first well, not first impressions, but quick impressions. Um, a little disappointing after how good the first one is.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
what's
think this one's a worthy sequel, though.
yeah, I mean, the first one's just so good. And of
Yeah,
course, you know, so many sequels are not as good as the first one. Sometimes some sequels are better, but yeah, this is definitely not that case. It's not bad, but just like they struck gold with the first one, and this one's like a silver deposit, maybe.
yeah. I would consider this like Halloween.
Oh,
Halloween is an amazing movie. Halloween 2 is pretty good. Like,
I,
it's not awful. It's got some things going for it, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not as good as the first one.
Yeah. I will one thing that I will say about this is that I felt like it was piggybacking too much off of the first one in the aspect that while it was very cool, I will give it to them. Like what they did was cool.
Yeah,
They just did it too much, kind of, in my opinion, where they were just so many references to the first one in the background of this one. So
okay.
like,
Yeah,
he's climbing in the scaffolding above him while he's playing guitar. Oh, he's in the principal's office, which has a window looking into the parking lot where George McFly punches Biff. Like all these things that are just observing the previous movie.
yeah,
So I mean, it's again, it's not bad, but it just by the end of the movie, it felt like they were doing that over and over and over again.
yeah. Well, I will say it's not as egregious as Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, which just uses like 50% of the stuff from the first movie.
Yeah, you have
Like
mentioned
this one
that.
had a little more creative way around that, where it's just like, yeah, we're seeing stuff from the first movie, but it's taken from a different angle, which is kind of interesting. But I think they were never gonna reach the heights of the first one,
Yeah. I
and I think they did a pretty decent job with this one to, make it feel similar, but also give it its own kind of flavor.
I think that they could have um tried to come up with more of their own jokes this time, I guess.
Yeah.
Like in the first one everything was original.
Hmm.
And then like we've already said there in this one there's references to the first film and some of the things are like funny, ironic, whatever. I don't know, I just felt like a lot of it wasn't they didn't put as much effort into new funny stuff as they did the first time around. I
Yeah,
guess would
I
be
get what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah. Some similar jokes or just word for word the same jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do think it was rather clever how they, cause like they reshot that stuff in the first movie
Yeah, a lot
because
of
it's
it.
like from a completely different angle, like the one where he's on the stage playing a guitar and that guy goes and makes a phone call to Chuck Berry. Like this time it was like right up in his face from a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
So like they reshot that scene. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if they green screened some of it together, but if they did, I couldn't really tell.
There were a couple spots that I was wondering if they green screened, but not very many if they did any. So but I will admit though, it'd been so long since I'd seen this one that I did not realize the short amount of time that they spent in the future
Yeah.
because I thought there was more time spent in the future, but
Yeah. Um, I think the first time I watched this movie, um, I know I saw the first one a couple times when I was younger, but I don't know if I saw the second or the third, and I ended up buying like the trilogy on DVD at
hmm
Walmart at one point, and like basically watched them all within a weekend. And I think I might have saw a part of the second one on cable or something like that, and didn't realize that it was it wasn't the first movie. And I think that's some of the issue with this is that it doesn't really have much of its own identity. And I just remember thinking like, oh, this is the second one. Like, why do they go back to the 50s again?
hmm yeah. I
When there's literally limitless possibilities of places you can go.
right. Yeah.
Like you can go back to years that we're not even aware of, you know? You could go back to prehistoric times and Doc and Marty could be running away from dinosaurs.
Well, one of the things too that I kind of gathered this time watching and kind of connected some dots that I never really had focused on before is the doc talks about the importance of not changing things.
Yeah.
So important, but then he goes to the future and has Marty do something to change something for the future.
Hmm.
Like, isn't that basically against everything that he's been saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
basically, unless it helps him out in some way.
right. I mean, I kind of get it from the aspect of it's not the same because it's not in the past. And so if we're affecting the future hasn't happened yet.
Hmm.
But still at the same time, like he went far enough in the future to have a paper from the next day on his son being going to jail, Marty's son going to
Yeah.
jail. So it's like, so technically you're doing the thing that you said not to. You're just saying that's okay now because you're 30 years in the future.
Hmm.
So,
Uh, your logic is flawed, Doc.
and if they made the movie today and then 30 years ago, it would be 1995.
Ugh.
Gross.
Yeah. It goes back in time, and it's like, man, Jurassic Park was great.
Was that Beanie Babies?
Yeah.
Beanie Baby craze?
Marty, I gotta warn you about 1995. Your parents spent all their money on Beanie Babies, and they're not worth anything.
I must say I think one of the funniest and yet also saddest and kind of cruelest things from Family Guy. Do you remember when Family Guy did I'm surprised I didn't mention this last time. Did the Back to the Future bit where I think Stewie was on Stewie was on this on his roof, I think, and the storm
Yeah,
was
and
coming.
Marty comes by, Stewie,
I gotta tell
I
you
gotta
about
tell you
the
about the
future.
future. No, Michael, I need to tell you about your future.
Yeah. Like,
uh,
oh. Uh
oh, man.
they did not hold any punches back with that one.
No, not at all. Oh, man. So things I thought were pretty good in this one. I thought Leah Thompson was better than she was in the first one.
Okay. Yeah.
She showed some more range, and I don't know, basically because her character, I guess, changed more.
I don't think she was as good as she was in Howard the Duck, though. Too
I
soon?
mean, who
Too soon?
is? Who is?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, what's great is Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, and Thomas Wilson, again,
Oh, yeah.
are still, the highlights of the movie. And the fact that the DeLorean can fly now,
Oh, yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
And then he doesn't need plutonium anymore, right?
Yeah, he just needs
Banana peels.
waste. Yeah,
It just
organic
turns around,
waste.
takes a squat. He's like, all right,
Takes a
here we
dump in
go.
it. Just 1 second, Marty. I gotta pinch a loaf in this. Then we can go.
Uh, oh, dude. Okay. Sorry. Random question, actually. That was a little surprising that I feel like I didn't get an answer for in the movie, and I don't know if there is an answer in part three. Um, Biff stole the time machine, okay?
Yeah,
First of all, my beef with that is how does Biff, who is stupid, dumber than a box of rocks, understand how to use a time machine without instructions? Um,
yeah.
Second of all, the when he came back from the past, was he dying? Like,
I
did you
don't
see
know.
him? He was like stumbling out, and then he like stumbled over to some trash cans, was like clutching his chest, and like was falling over.
I don't know.
Yeah, like it was. I was just like, oh, does Biff die? And then they didn't talk about it. I was like, okay, maybe like we come back to that or something. But yeah, it was. I swore they were making it look like the Biff character was having a heart attack or something.
Maybe. I mean, he was ancient.
Maybe if you have time before we do the next episode, go back to that scene and just like rewatch it and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I guess I didn't catch that. Hmm. Um, I guess scenes that maybe were memorable and there's quotes and stuff. There's not as many as the first one. We kind of touched on that a little bit.
Hmm.
Although I think they spent too much time in the 50s again. I do like the way they approached it this time. Um, and like I said, showing the scenes from the previous movie from different angles, and now um, it's like there's different things hanging in the balance,
Yeah.
and Marty's got not only Biff to deal with, he's also got to like hide from his self. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that he's got to worry about where Doc's at and all that kind of stuff. And then as far as the future stuff, the whole hoverboard chase is really cool, and
Oh
it's kind
yeah.
of reminiscent of the skateboard chase in the first one.
Well, the clothes too were super awesome. The shoes that lace themselves, the jacket that
Yeah.
resizes itself.
Did you know they actually made those shoes?
I do remember they actually made those shoes.
Yeah, it was years ago, and it was only like a prototype or something.
Yeah, there were some pretty cool things.
Self-lacing shoes for the
Still,
lazy man.
we still don't have that.
Yeah. One thing I didn't notice from the first movie that I noticed this time, you probably didn't pay attention or make this connection, but did you realize that the director of photography was Dean Cundy, who was the director of photography in Halloween?
What? No.
Yeah,
That's funny.
that's why the movie looks so good.
There you go.
Because he was also I believe he was the DP for the thing as well. Like he
Oh,
worked with John
nice.
Carpenter a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, he's just one of the best. But I just realized that watching the second one because I was paying attention to the credits more. And I'm like, what, Dean Cundy? And then I looked it up, and he's like, he did the first one too, and I didn't notice. Uh, so other things in the future that were funny. Jaws 19.
Oh yeah.
This time it's really personal, or whatever
I think it
the
was this
tagline
time
said.
it's really, really personal or
Yeah.
some nonsense.
And then there's Cafe 80s,
Hmm.
where like the waiters are all like on TVs, and they're also like max headroom,
Yeah. Wasn't one
which is
Michael
really
Jackson?
cool. Yeah, and one was Ronald Reagan, but they're all like shot and in the style of the old Max Headroom,
Hmm.
where they kind of like glitch out, and it's like they're people, but they're also computer. It's hard to explain. Uh, and then, did you notice too that when they set Jennifer down, when they go in the future, they just ditch her in an alley. Um, and they lay her next to this pile of old Laserdisc.
Yes, I saw that. That was awesome.
Yeah, just like bales of Laserdisc. It cracked me up.
Probably some free and cheap to just throw in there.
Oh, so in the Biff's 1985, that casino, Biff's Pleasure Palace or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Dude, I totally was at that building
Okay.
and didn't even notice it until just now when I went to Vegas. It's at the end of Fremont Street in Old Vegas.
Okay.
I can't remember what it is now, but I remember seeing that big light up marquee, and I think I have a picture of it on my phone
Yeah, I
because I remember
remember.
being like, "Oh, this is a cool looking building," and like there's lots of lights, and like this is what I think of when I think of Las Vegas.
Hmm.
You know, like all the neon lights and big marquees and everything. And I didn't realize it until this time around. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was totally that hotel casino that I stood in front of in Vegas.
I knew it was a casino in Vegas. I saw that posted somewhere one time because I'm in one of those groups of like historic film locations or whatever.
Yeah.
And they did the comparison. So
So another thing I thought of. So in the future, Marty grabs that sports almanac that's got like statistics for sporting events from what was it, like the mid 50s to
I think it was 50 to 2000.
2000? Yeah, something like that. And then Biff takes it and he goes back to the 50s, and like this is how he gets like he wins all this money and everything. So did old Biff give young Biff the book, and young Biff was probably like, "You're telling me that the Detroit Lions are never gonna win another championship?" Because in 1955, that was like in the middle of the Lions, like three championships they won.
That's funny. That's also sad.
He's
Well,
like, wait, the Lions aren't gonna win another playoff game until 1991?
one thing I have to say about that though is technically at some point that book is going to become obsolete because his actions will have a big enough ramification that they will begin affecting things around him. So, like, for instance, he used it so much that he changed the town that he lived in and built
Hmm.
a casino in it. And if he's having that big of an impact on his town, then, I mean, this is the thing that's crazy to me about when you really go down the rabbit hole of time travel movies. Okay,
Yeah,
let's say there was a student that went to Marty McFly's high school who wound up becoming a pro football player. Well, the
yeah.
school burnt down. So
Hmm.
what happened to that pro football player? He didn't go to the college he went to. He didn't become a pro football player. So then that has an impact on who that school recruits, how many players they have. Different recruits didn't go to a different school. So then that means the outcome of a game does not match up to what the outcome is supposed to be because they don't have the same players.
Right.
So at a certain point in time, the amount that he of impact that Biff is having on everything would completely nullify, like make his book void. Like it would be no good anymore. I mean, if he, first of all, Biff was not smart, but if he was smart, the thing would have been to do is to make his wagers, place his bets, collect his money, and do nothing for like a good decade, because then that would keep things moving the way that they normally are.
Hmm.
And then after that, start doing things because then it would slowly start building up and everything that would extend the amount of time that the book would actually be good for, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So, but they don't address that, so this movie sucks. That's
Horrible.
that's why it's a
One
1 out of
star.
5, 1 star.
Oh man. Yeah, and also in Biff's future, like you said, he's crazy rich. He killed George McFly, and
Got
he's
away.
married to Lorraine
Yeah.
and got her a boob job.
Yep. And apparently she had 2 kids with Biff, but Marty was her kid with George. Right? I think that's the way that was, or
No, she still had the other two kids, because
was.
Marty's the youngest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Marty has a sister and an older brother in the first one.
Oh, yeah, they are older.
Yeah.
I thought, okay.
Yeah, and the older brother's like in jail or something like that.
Yeah, something the way Biff was saying it was like made it sound like Marty was the only one that was
Yeah.
his
And then
brother.
Biff tries to kill Marty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, well,
Crazy Biff.
I had down like once they went back to 1985 after
Hmm.
Biff messed up the future and everything, that like things got dark real fast. Like the neighborhood was bad, the school was burned down, biker gangs, drive-by shootings, like just
Well, I
super
mean,
bad.
Biff is a troubled character to begin with. I mean, in the first movie, he tries to rape Lorraine.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Um, Man, that got dark.
Real dark.
So yeah, he goes back to 55 to try to get the book back, and I feel like there's so many times where he could have just grabbed the book and ran.
Mhm.
I mean, like, what was their plan? Like, here, Marty, put on his black coat and a black fedora and sneak around and try to get it. When, like, why didn't he just grab the book and then just take off running, and then Doc's right there with the DeLorean and they go?
The only thing that could have messed up is if Biff got distracted chasing him instead of going to the dance where
Oh yeah.
George was going to punch him, which I mean wasn't really explained, but that could have messed things up.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So really what they should have said is like, "Hey, we know what needs to happen for your parents, so really we should just keep track of the book, make sure where it's at, and then after he gets punched out by George, which he does, you should grab the book, which he did,
Yeah.
but then like all this other stuff like got messed up."
Yeah, and then instead of like bailing and getting the heck out of there, Marty like lingers to check things out.
Yeah, and he ran into the Billy Zane and the other guys, and so they tried
Yeah.
chasing him, and so then he had to protect it, old the other Marty McFly, and yeah.
Yeah. Damn it, Marty. And then there's another great chase with the hoverboard where him and Biff like play chicken basically in that tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And Marty's able to like fake Biff out and then Biff crashes into another truck full of manure,
Yeah.
which is hilarious. Which like the first time I saw this, I did not see that coming. So Marty gets the book, then he gets over by Doc, and then lightning strikes Doc and he vanishes like in the DeLorean. And then Marty's just like, "Oh my God, like how do I get back?" And um, like, is Doc okay? Where is he at? And everything. And then Joe Flaherty shows up with a letter for Marty, and he's like, "We've had this letter for 70 years." And he finds out that Doc is okay, and he's actually in 1885.
I
So Marty has to go find 1955 Doc again to help him, which is hilarious because he shows up the second that Marty from the first movie goes back to 85.
yeah, and
And
that
Doc's like really confused. He's like, what the hell, basically.
that was a fantastic scene. Like
Yeah.
the whole thing where Marty disappears in the DeLorean and the exact same shot. Doc is in the street, like, oh my gosh, like my invention works. This is amazing. Turns around, and as his back is towards the other direction, Marty comes running down the street. That
Yeah.
that is definitely one of the best scenes in the movie where it's just like funny, comical, like just executed so well. So,
Yeah. Uh, yeah, that's really good. And then I get the to be concluded. And then all of a sudden, we get footage from part three.
yeah.
And I'm like, I get what they're doing. And I knew that two and three were shot at the same time.
Hmm.
But I'm also like, this is really weird. And why are they doing this?
I really smart marketing in my opinion because it tries to capitalize on the hype of the second one, getting you ready for the third one. I do think they kind of gave you more than you needed. Um, but yeah, it was very interesting. I was not expecting that. And also was I mean really when you think about it, I there might be more, but I do remember them making a reference to Biff's ancestor
Yeah,
in the history museum or whatever.
Mad Dog Griffin or whatever.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like good on them for finding an opportunity to make some connections and everything ahead of time instead of making a movie and then going back and reshooting a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how many connections that they make between part two and part three. But yeah, I was thinking that because I totally forgot that they showed footage and I was like, holy crap, they are showing so much.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, maybe showed a little too much, but we will see because it's been a long time since I've watched part three.
yeah, a little too raff.
Oh man. Trivia and facts?
Trivia and facts.
All right. So this, like I said, this is filmed at the same time as Back to the Future 3. It was claimed at the time that in 4 years since Back to the Future was made, Michael J. Fox had forgotten how to ride a skateboard. However, the motor skills are not so easily lost, um, just like riding a bicycle, and Michael J. Fox has since stated that this was an early symptom of his Parkinson's disease,
Oh no.
although the medical diagnosis was not made until 1991.
Oh wow. Bummer.
Yeah.
Uh,
So the plotline of George McFly being dead in 1985 was based entirely on Crispin Glover's refusal to do a sequel.
mm, okay.
Crispin Glover, um, very well known for being a weirdo,
Kind of unusual.
eccentric. Yeah. In the DVD extras of Back to the Future Part 2, Robert Zemeckis said that he really did not want the movie to take place in the future. That is because he felt that every time a movie takes place in the future, it is mispredicted.
They got some stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
they had the video calls. Um, shoot, I felt like there were a couple other things.
I feel like those automated waiters are kind of similar to, kind of like the those kiosks at McDonald's
Mm-hmm.
where you type in your order.
Yeah. Dang it. There was the 3D. Yeah, I feel like there was some other stuff, but certainly, I mean, there were more things not accurate than accurate, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Hoverboards, for sure.
Yeah. So according to Michael J. Fox, he found out there was going to be a sequel to Back to the Future when he watched the VHS version and the words "to be continued" were added at the end. He immediately called his agent to make sure he was going to be in the sequel. Uh, so this movie was the most advanced film of its time, using, quote, every trick in the book, according to Robert Zemeckis. It was the late 80s when the concept of CGI was starting. However, in the film, very few CGI effects were actually needed.
Hmm.
So Crispin Glover sued the filmmakers as he had not granted permission to use his likeliness or likeness in part two. Crispin's suit named John Doe 100 as defendants, um, where he did not have to name all the individuals he was suing. Crispin ended up dropping the lawsuit after the case was settled out of court for $765,000 by Universal's insurance company, who decided to be cheaper to pay Crispin than go to trial. Uh, Screen Actors Guild subsequently introduced new rules about illicit use of actors.
Hmm.
So, astrophysicist Carl Sagan considered this the greatest time travel movie ever made. He praised the accuracy of handling the multiple timelines as it would really happen if time travel were possible. In Back to the Future, the game, Carl Sagan is the alias used by Doc Brown when visiting Hill Valley in 1931.
Hmm.
So Elizabeth Shue was cast as Jennifer, and all the closing shots of Back to the Future were reshot at the beginning of this film. Claudia Wells, who played Jennifer in the first movie, was unable to reprise her role as she had stopped acting because her mother had been diagnosed with cancer. She returned to acting for the independent film Still Waters Burn in 2008. An interesting point was that during the years between her first and second film, people have forgotten what Jennifer looked like, and when unknown Shue replaced her virtually, no one noticed the change. For the anniversary of the 2015 fan film was made with a Zoom chat featuring all the cast except for Tom Wilson and with both Jennifers. By this time, Wells was running a very successful high-end used clothing store in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
The date on the 2015 USA Today newspaper is October 22nd. That is actually Christopher Lloyd's birthday.
Oh,
So in the front entrance of Biff Tannen Museum, there is a sign that reads "Smoking Required." And the last thing I got is this movie had a $40 million budget and it made 332 million in the box office.
40 million and 332.
Yeah,
Man, didn't make that much less than the first one.
no. So, grades. IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, what are they?
I think I may have accidentally seen IMDb. Is it something like a 6.3?
That's a 7.8.
Oh, man, maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy. Rotten Tomato critic 80 87.
63.
Oh, dang. Okay. Maybe that was the 6.3 I was thinking of.
Maybe.
Rotten Tomato audience 74?
86.
86. Dang, I wasn't even close.
Yeah. And I will let you go first because I think I went first last time.
Okay. Well, I already started things off saying that it was a little bit of a letdown from the first one. Again, it's not saying that this film is bad. It's just that the first one was just so good.
Yeah.
I have a hard time deciding exactly how far to drop it between like half a point or a full point. Um, I'm, hmm, I'm kind of leaning towards maybe a full point just because I feel like its success heavily weighs on the success of the first movie. Um, Obviously, kind of it's weird to think about. You can't have this movie without the first movie because so much of this movie is based off of the first movie. So it's
Yeah.
not like you can really look at it by itself. So, um, yeah, I think I'm gonna land at 4 out of 5
Okay.
because I feel like I mentioned, I felt like a lot of the punchlines that they were going for, some of the biggest things that they focused on were rehashing the first movie.
Hmm.
And also there is are a couple elements that I know that they put in this movie that they purposely did it because they're going to talk about them in the third movie. And I think it kind of it may have taken away opportunities for them just to focus more on the second movie. I guess I would
Okay.
say they may have spent too much time focusing on. They may have overlooked some opportunities by focusing on things to tie into the third movie. I'm not sure, but still fun. Still a time traveling movie that has holes like every other time traveling movie. Um, I just am still kind of not getting over just how much fun I had watching the first one.
Yeah.
So that's definitely kind of something that's weighing into this. But yeah, 4 out of 5 for me.
Rock. Yeah, I mean, definitely not as good as the first one. I think the first one is a top five 80s movie of any genre. So, I mean, really hard to live up to that because there's a lot of great movies in the 80s. I mean, we've reviewed a lot of them on the show.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, still a pretty good and enjoyable movie. I thought some things were handled well, other things were kind of off. I forgot to mention that one of the things I did not like about this movie was how people calling Marty a chicken like sends him into a rage. Like it's just so dumb and lame.
Well, yeah. Well, that's one of the things that they talk more about in the third movie.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, anyways,
yeah.
yeah.
Just I don't. Had there was nothing like that in the first one,
Yeah.
where Marty was more just like, I'm not gonna take crap from people, and I'm gonna stick up for myself, even though
Hmm.
I'm not very big, kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a knock against it. I didn't give it as big of a step down. Ended up going a 4.5 out of 5
Rock.
because I still really enjoy this movie. But if I want to watch a Back to the Future movie, I'm watching the first one.
Oh yeah, totally.
But I'm interested to see number three again because it's probably been a good 15 years since I've watched it.
Hmm. I
So I need to
think
go back 15 years ago.
we need to go back to the future. Yeah, I think I saw this a lot more recent than the last time I saw part two, but we'll
Rob?
find out.
Yeah. So, shocker. Next week we're going to be talking about Back to the Future 3.
Crazy.
But if you guys are liking the show, please subscribe and share. You can find us on social media. We're on pretty much every platform. Check out our YouTube. We got some stuff on there. Um, I'm trying to plan more stuff for the YouTube, but it also takes a lot of work, and I don't have a whole heck of a lot of time. But maybe eventually. Um, yeah, I mean, more stuff on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram, so you can go and check those out. If you guys are liking this, come by next week. We're going to be talking about Back to the Future 3. And until then, as always, be kind and rewind.